My name is Commissioner Frank Avila. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Today is Tuesday, July the 24th, 2018. And I'm here at the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel blue ribbon cutting today because this project is being completed to solve the flooding here in Albany Park. This area here has flooded every year, maybe 4 or 5 times of a 100-year flood. But now this project, the diversion tunnel, is going to eliminate the flooding here in this area, and it's also going to save people money in this area because FEMA is going to should lift the flooding, calling it a flooding area, and lower their insurance premium, and also it's going to improve the value of the property here in Albany Park. And this project costs about $70 million, and everyone participated in funding this project. Us at the Water Reclamation District, we contribute a little over $20 million for this project. And just look at this area here. This area includes the Park District here, the schools, the grammar schools, the social events. And so this project here is going to really help this community in every way of life that you could think of. So have a great time here in Albany Park due to the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to Albany Park. I want to acknowledge a couple of people. I think we have Mary Ann LeVar from Congressman Quigley's office here, and we also have representatives from Senator Durbin and Duckworth's office. So thank you for joining us today. Now it's a bright sunny day, and you'd think that the last thing we'd be talking about would be flooding, but that's why we're here. The Albany Park community is delighted that from this day forward, flooding will be a part of our history. And Tom Carney, I'll sleep better because I couldn't sleep when it rained. It used to be said that this area was hit with a major flood every 100 years, and in 2008 we figured, okay, well this is the 100-year flood. But the math went terribly wrong and we were hit with another major flood. In 2008, the mayor was our congressman, and he and I were actually on sandbag duty. He even arranged for FEMA to set up shop at Northeastern with the help of his daughter, actually, who sent the original application through her phone to Washington, D.C. So when the 2013 floods came around, he was mayor, and like all of us, tired of the rushing waters that damaged so many homes. To try to visualize how devastating these floods were, think about this. People had to be taken from their homes in these inflatable rowboats, and we actually lost 2 houses. The mayor actually coordinated the funding efforts with the city, the Water Reclamation District, the state, the federal government to design and then build the Albany Park Tunnel. The mayor and I broke ground for this tunnel right here at this spot 2 years ago. I won't go into the details about how much water will be removed or how fast, but I want to say that neighbors won't be worried anymore when they hear that there are heavy rains in the forecast. What happened during that time was something that my constituents came to me and said, what's going to happen if it floods before the tunnel's finished? Well, we had an answer for that also. We monitored the water levels. 7 feet was the flooding stage, but at 5 feet, CDOT and OEMC actually kicked in to high gear. Sandbags were positioned, Jersey barriers were put up, the police, the fire, and the utility companies were alerted, and then the residents were actually called. Fortunately, we didn't experience any major flooding, but I want to conclude with a round of applause for the tireless city personnel, and I want to point out especially Dan Burke and Vasile, our engineers on this, and the utility workers, the Albany Park residents, and I have one of my favorite constituents, Mr. Bob Fine, who's been advocating for flood control since, let's just say a long time ago, okay, all right? And he stood by us ready to protect our community from the threat of flooding. So our next speaker is our Water Rec President, Mariana Sparopoulos. President Sparopoulos has been a great advocate for our tunnel here, and it's my great pleasure to welcome her here today.
Thank you, Alderman. And since this is about partnership, it's important that I recognize my colleagues on the board at the Water Reclamation District. We're joined here today by Commissioner Josina Morita, Commissioner Deborah Shore, Commissioner David Walsh, and Commissioner Frank Avila. Important members of the board. Stormwater management is what we do at the Water Reclamation District. We've contributed $26 million out of the $70 million that was spent on this project today. The 18-foot wide stormwater diversion tunnel that's going to hold 2,300 cubic feet per square second per flow. So all the engineers in the audience are going to love that stuff. We can never predict our weather across Chicagoland, but we do know that heavy rains and storms are something, the current norm that we're going to have to get used to. So this kind of project is an indication of what great things we can do when we work in partnership, when we work together, and we're going to make a sustainable Cook County the norm of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm Tom Carney with the Chicago Department of Transportation. I'm delighted to be here to speak on behalf of the department and for all the CDOT folks here who worked so hard on this project and the workers here. Today is our version of the parade and pep rally after you win a Super Bowl or Stanley Cup. So after Mayor Emanuel directed CDOT to team up with the Water Reclamation District to address the flooding problems in Albany Park, we worked closely with Alderman Lorino's office and various stakeholders in the area to come up with the most effective solution for the community. We determined that a deep tunnel would move floodwater safely and quickly from the banks of the North Branch to the North Shore Channel without disrupting the neighborhood. Today we are here to officially cut the ribbon on a flood diversion system that can handle heavy storm events, whether they're next year or a 100-year storm. The Albany Park Tunnel is designed to transfer water from the North Branch through a tunnel that's 150 feet below Foster Avenue. In essence, the tunnel serves as a second river, making sure the above-ground channel doesn't overflow and flood neighborhoods like Albany Park. And probably the most important thing I want to stress here today is that this tunnel's been activated 4 times, and we've already had 4 success stories. So we're 4 for 4 with no flooding. Our next step is to work with FEMA to officially remove the flood zone designation for the people who live in 336 homes and multifamily buildings that used to be subject to flooding of the North Branch. In addition, as part of the project at the inlet and outlet shafts, there's 2 parks, Eugenia Field and River Park. And there's various improvements that are being made at these parks, from a new ball field at River Park to a bike connection that goes underneath Foster. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize over the years there's been a lot of hard work and coordination between various city departments. There's CDOT, Department of Streets and Sand, OEMC, Water Management. And when we had different events, it was all these agencies came together, and you'd have hundreds of personnel mobilizing quickly to do everything and anything they could. So I want to thank all those other agencies for a job well done over the years. I'd also like to just recognize a couple of key personnel from the Department of Transportation who worked so hard to deliver this project. our Chief Engineer, Dan Burke, Luis Benitez, the CDOT Project Manager, Vasil Jerka, all the hardworking folks from Kenny Construction, and finally Frank Sonny Jamilia, who was the resident engineer on this project. So these are the type of projects we love because we know they make a difference in the lives of residents, and they really make a difference and make our city a better place. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's really the driving force behind making these projects a reality, and that's our mayor. A lot of people got thanked just a minute ago, appropriately. I would like to thank the residents of Albany Park. Thank you for your patience through the construction of this. I want to also thank you for your tireless advocacy on behalf of your neighborhood and your community. Tom made a point about removing this from the flood marking by FEMA. That means if we're successful, because our work is not done yet, it means then your home insurance will change and it will go lower. That's what this effort is about, is making sure Marge and I remember, that's seared in my memory, that Sunday night when I went out with my daughter Alana, as I was just saying over there, who is now a sophomore at college, but then she was in elementary school, and she took the photos, and I think, at least in our family lore now, it's going to go down in history. It's the first electronic communication to FEMA about a flood disaster. But I say that by way is everybody in Albany Park, you couldn't, but when we were touring and driving on the streets on a major forklift and it met water, and they were deciding for Marge and I whether it was going to be a forklift or a boat. And that's how bad it was, 4 or 5 blocks deep. And you literally would go up to residents and they had family photos for decades going back, wedding photos, destroyed. Everything in the refrigerator because the energy was out and the power was out. Groceries, a week's worth, destroyed. Family disrupted where kids couldn't have clothes because they were all wet. The washer and dryer wasn't working. That was set back. So this was not just a flood in the way you think about it. Literally, when we would have a flood off of this part of the river, it would disrupt families in the Albany Park neighborhood for weeks before they could get back, and they never got those photos back. And so this is a seminal moment for the people of Albany who have suffered through a lot of flooding over the zone and effort. And to go back to that moment, the next morning I then called, or that evening on the way back, I called Senator Durbin, and he came back, and the Monday morning he went to visit this site, which is where we got the FEMA set up, the resources, etc. And I made a commitment, and I want to say to everybody here that we were going to permanently fix this. And so, again, while we thanked all the residents and all the other people, I want to thank Senator Durbin, Congressman Quigley, and Senator Duckworth. Please give them a round of applause, because this is also including federal money. You can have all the desires you want. We could not do this without the Metropolitan Water District. We couldn't have done it without local resources, but we also got federal resources to match. And about 2013, and this is not, I know it's warm outside, but to give you the history, we thought over Eugene Field, right over there, if we built a major marsh, that would absorb the water. That proved to be inadequate. And then came the idea, Marge never gave up. She said, it's not working, we got to solve this once and for all. I remember we were in the Eugene Field with the sand, yes, in the field house, with the sandbags. And I said, we're not doing this again. And Marge, to her credit, and I want everybody to give the alderman who has gone through every flooding and has never given up to all the residents are back in their home at all. So I should give Marge Lorino. Then came about, we were going to dig a deep tunnel. And I just wanted to say this, there's another deep tunnel somewhere else. This deep tunnel is on time and on budget and done for the Albany residents. And some of us in government take on time and on budget, seriously. And we now, and Tom mentioned, this, this is one of the rainier springs and summers. This tunnel's already been used 4 times. No flooding in basements. No disruption to families.
No lost food in the refrigerator, except for if you have a teenage boy. That's a whole different thing. It's not a flood. That's just a locust coming through the kitchen if you have a teenager in your house. But the seriousness is this has already been used 4 times. And in my tenure as mayor, we've had 4 100-year weather events. That's climate change. That's what's happening. It's the things that you never think were going to happen with more frequency. That's what it means. And so we're now, I think the Albany neighborhood and surrounding community is better prepared. And I want to close out now, we're better prepared for a weather storm, lots of rain, so there'll be no flooding. But we now have the confidence to rebuild a baseball field that used to be wet for 2 or 3 weeks after a rain, a real bad rain. And that now will be a real park district facility that will serve the entire neighborhood. I can't wait now to cut this ribbon and finally say, mission accomplished. Congratulations to everybody.
A little tighter, a little tighter. 1, 2, 3.
My name is Commissioner Frank Avila. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And today we had a blue ribbon cutting on the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel. And this area here used to flood every year, or maybe twice a year, but because of completing this project, it's going to alleviate all the 100-year flooding here in this area. And I have with me one of the key persons, and there are a lot of key persons here on this project. And you're with Globetrotter, right?
Right, Globetrotter's Engineering in
Globetrotter Engineering, and you're one of the project managers on this job.
Construction management team.
And what's your name again?
Dave Handwork.
Dave Handwork. And there was a project team, and Dave was part of the project team. Dave, explain what this project, how they built it.
Okay. So this project's on the north branch of the Chicago River, which used to flood in this neighborhood, affecting over 300 houses and multifamily structures. What will happen here is when the river rises behind me, it'll flow over a weir into an inlet channel, down to a drop shaft, drop down 150 feet into an 18-foot diameter tunnel, which goes a little over a mile east to River Park. There's another shaft there on that end. Water will come up from that shaft and discharge into the North Shore Channel. For the 100-year flood, we'll divert about half of the total flow of the Chicago River. We'll go underground rather than through people's houses.
Yes, and when Dave mentioned the 100-year flood, it means that you're going to have a big flood every 100 years. But you know, recently in this area, they've been having it 4 times a year. And that's the cause of everyone getting flooded. And at the blue ribbon cutting ceremony, and I didn't realize that at the beginning, but this area could be lifted from FEMA flooding area.
Right.
And people will save on their insurance money.
Right.
Also on the evaluation, on the value of their real estate property here, because now people would love to come and live in this area because this is a wonderful area.
Yeah.
We got parks here, we got the waterways, we have libraries, schools, so this project is going to help this area drastically on the economic side and on the social side.
Right. And I actually live in Albany Park myself.
Oh, you do?
I'm like, I can walk to the site from my house, so I have a little bit of skin in this game.
I see. And the project mentioned cost about $70 million, where the district, the Water Reclamation District, we gave a little over $20 million.
Yep.
And they had grants from the city, from the state, and to complete this project. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You did an excellent job.
Thank you.
My name is Commissioner Frank Avila. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And we're here at the blue ribbon cutting for the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel. And I have with me the expert here, the resident engineer, on how this job was completed, because if it wasn't for people like Sonny, this job will not be completed. Now, his name is Sonny Hamia, and he's the resident engineer, and he works for WSP, right? And that stands for what now?
Williams Sale Partnership.
Williams Sale Partnership. Sonny, explain what this project is all about.
Well, thank you for saying that. And what this project is all about is this diverts the overflow from the North Branch of the Chicago River into the tunnel through Foster Avenue. Underneath Foster Avenue, the tunnel flows to the outlet. It flows into the inlet weir here, over tops the weir, goes through this chamber, down into the inlet shaft, 150 feet below Foster Avenue, and goes 1 mile directly east, and then comes up through the outlet shaft and out of the outlet spillway into the north branch channel of the Chicago River. And what's really cool about this project is it's kind of like a second river underneath Foster Avenue. And it's, as a diversion tunnel, it's putting the water where it would be going anyways. So the bigger the storm, the bigger the event, the more flow that this could take. In a 100-year event, it theoretically will take 54% of the flow on the north branch and put it into the north channel, the larger river vessel.
And what Sonny said is correct, that if we didn't have the diversion tunnel, all that water will be going into the residents here.
Yes.
in the area here. But this diversion tunnel, as he mentioned, is 150 feet below surface, below the ground. And as he mentioned, we've got a shaft here that will bring it down 150 feet. It runs along Foster Avenue, all about a mile, all the way to the North Shore Channel, and pumps it up, brings it up, and discharges that into the channel. A second river.
Yes, a second river, all by gravity.
Now, Sonny, what's your background?
I am a civil engineer.
You graduated from what school?
Arizona State University.
Arizona State University. Do you know what, guys? I graduated from University of Arizona.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. But I got my Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering at the U of I in Champaign. Then I went to U of A to get my Master's in Finance.
Okay.
And we're always competing in football.
That's right.
So you got your BSA from University.
Arizona State, Sun Devils, not the
Sunday,
Wildcats,
yeah,
not the Wildcats.
Yeah, very good. And then do you have your bachelor? You got to get a master's, or?
Well, I have my PE license.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so I will work on after, I will go to graduate school, but I'm interested in it.
Excellent.
And I was born and raised here in Chicago, not far from the project.
Interesting. See, and here I was born here in Chicago. I went down to Champaign, but I went to Arizona to get my master's degree. This is
We have a very similar story.
Yeah, it's a similar story. See, we're both good looking. Well, thank you very much. And it's people like Sonny that is working on these projects that are going to save the taxpayer money on these type of projects, because I think you're on time and within budget.
Yes, sir.
Which is the key on every construction job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.